So we're here with Charles Gorham today, and Charlie has been kind enough during this crazy 3-day 25th anniversary celebration that we're having to sit down and agree to do a quick video interview, as we've been doing here for the last year or so for the website. And Charlie, you are, I tell everyone, and it's absolutely true, that there would be no Monette trumpets without you. You are my mentor, you're my teacher, you're my friend. And I could not have done any of the stuff that I've been doing without you helping me out from the very beginning 30 years ago. So thank you, Charlie.
Well, David, I've heard you say this publicly, and it makes me feel good, very good, that I've been able to help.
Just for people who are younger and might not know, now you retired in what year?
I retired in 94.
94 as chairman of the brass department at the School of Music at Indiana University.
That is correct.
Charlie, you and I started working together in the very late 70s, and you and I hit it off and have been screwing around with horns and mouthpieces and parts of horns and all sorts of stuff ever since. So let's start the interview out by just asking you for a little bit of an overview of what you've seen happen in the last 25 years from your perspective.
I was old enough when I met you to have developed some opinions, and one of them was that the manufacturers of trumpets, particularly, what I was most interested in, and you were, what had happened was that the manufacturers were rather static. There was not any improvement. I mean, they made maybe a different color polish or finish on an instrument. They did certain things that they thought were improvements, but sometimes were not. But you brought the industry just miles and miles ahead of where it was in those years. I remember just the kinds of things that you did when you were doing instrumental repair, which was, by the way, was significant. I don't know how many people valued that and I mean, you had removable bells where you could try a bell until you found one that you loved, and then you soldered it onto the horn.
We had some fun with some of that stuff.
Yeah.
The repair shop in Salem, by the time I was done in Salem, we had work coming in from 35 states. Yeah. Around the U.S. into Salem, Oregon. So, but again, to me, this is just kind of a commentary on the state of the art.
Yes.
It's not that I was so great at any of this stuff. I think it was just that the state of the art was there was this big void. I mean, Vincent Bach was dead. Reynold Schilke was not in great health. Mr. Colicchio had passed. I mean, the great American trumpet makers were gone. And it's time for the next generation, and the timing was good. So, Charlie, for so much of the time before I started making horns and before we even started working together, imitation was the rule in how people came up with horn designs. And of course the imitations were of Besson instruments, which were fabulous instruments, but made now, 100 years ago.
Yes.
So can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, way back in those early years, there were magnificent performers, and some of them, Harry Glantz and Bud Herseth and so on, without going through a whole listing of names of great players. They were strong enough and capable and talented enough so that they really transcended the instruments that were being made. And as fine an instrument as the Besson people made and Bach made, there were many things that needed to be improved. I could start with a mouthpiece and lead pipe bell, and so in the process you ascertained what needed to be done. I don't even know that you knew that you were doing it. I presume that you did, because I remember the day when you were in Bloomington, you said, I have to move to Chicago. And I can tell you the reason that came to mind. Chicago is near an airport. It's a crossroad of the world, and you're going to meet artists and more people than you're going to meet in Bloomington. And that yes. Bloomington had served its function. And
during this time, of course, you and I used to talk all the time about the different parts of the sound of horns.
Yes.
And the different parts of response. And the thing that's been so fun the last 25 plus years has been to learn the physical properties of horns and how specific physical properties in the instruments affect specific musical qualities to an instrument. The stuff that you and I started doing, thankfully, we've been able to kind of fine-tune and get into more subtle stuff and It's been a wild ride,
that's
Charlie.
right. We took the screws on the bottom of the valve, and I mean we took the caps off and we put a screw in and soldered it to give it weight, added weight, and found that it did dramatically change various things in the performance of an instrument. I don't know how many secrets you want to divulge, but
None.
you just
None until
divulged-
someone pays for my retirement,
Yeah,
Charlie.
but you just divulged a secret.
I just mentioned a general trend. I didn't give the specifics,
Oh,
which
okay.
will cost a lot more money than a free download on the internet. But whatever. Most
Well-
people don't care about this subtle stuff. But when you take 25 or 30 or 40 subtle aspects of how to build an instrument,
Yes.
you optimize all those aspects and combine them in one instrument, you can get something that might be pretty noticeable as an improvement, at least on the good days.
Okay, I remember in those early years very well what happened when you were working with lead pipes and various parts of the horn.
But thanks to
Yes.
you and Doc way back when,
Okay,
yeah,
so
things happened. And then once the
all right.
first Monette trumpet was made, which was for you, you got serial number 1 and number
And
2.
two.
And then as soon as I did that, I only had one lead pipe customer after that, and that was Doc.
is that a
And,
fact?
and I stopped selling Monette lead pipes. I only sold Monette instruments. And thankfully, there was a little bit of a waiting list on the horns before the first horn was ever made, because players had played Monette lead pipes and they kept saying, "Where's the horn? I want the whole horn."
Right,
So thankfully, I was busy from day one.
and there are some humorous stories along the way which we can overlook and not tell. like the time
For
the
another
policeman
time.
stopped you and found out your license had expired 5 years earlier.
I think it was only 3 or 4
Three,
years.
okay.
But the policeman came into my car, and he was an amateur trumpet player, and he sat in my car for probably 45 minutes, and we talked about trumpets, and we talked about trumpet making, and we talked about trumpet players, and he was a great guy, and we had a fantastic discussion.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that, because then after all that time, he did write me the ticket.
Oh, he did?
He did. He must have been low on his quota for the
Oh
month, because
man,
he still wrote the
I
ticket.
didn't think he wrote the
He
ticket.
said, "Yeah, I gotta write you. Your 4 years expired on your registration. I have to write you this ticket. I'm sorry." Charlie, you played the Honegger Entrada last night for us. Just played the living hell out of it, and everybody loved it. And you have such a unique interpretation. It's really the only interpretation that I've ever heard that I like. And I think that's why I was so thrilled to be working with you for the last 30 years. Is because you're just the most vibrant, exciting trumpet player. I mean,
I've loved the work and the fact that you enjoy it, and I had the opportunity to play it here. I've enjoyed that so much. But what I wanted to also say is that, you know, the trumpet, the C trumpet that I play now, and its growth from 30 years ago, 25 years ago, is awesome. The horn is simply not only beautiful to look at, but marvelous to play, easy. Last night, maybe I should have worried about intonation. I never thought of intonation. I just played the horn, okay? The mouthpiece I used has a secret serial number, but it is so marvelous.
yeah. I'm really glad you like it, Charlie.
And
We're having fun
I
with
can't
it.
help but tell you that the horn and the mouthpiece, both of them together, are outstanding. But your ability to take at home the things that you've been working on for a long time is extremely important. And it is a plateau that you've reached. I don't know how far you can go beyond this. I'm sure that you'll surprise all of us, because you always have. I know that a lot that has happened is the skill of your help and your guidance to these people. I mean, it's your idea. You tell them the numbers to work with, and they work with the numbers.
Well,
you do have that ability to keep millions of things moving in one direction, and you get them done. I've seen you do it.
On the good days. Charlie, let's have 25 more years.
Okay, all
And
right.
thank you so much, Charlie.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Charlie Gorham.